It's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's not Snow White and the seven normal-sized humans like every other movie. This is a fairy tale, a remake of a fairy tale. Pardon me. And this is also giving seven dwarves, people, real life people, actors, a chance to star in a movie.
And we know that there is a Snow White in the works, which basically they race swapped Snow White for Hispanic. And being a Hispanic, I would say hey, yay, they put a Hispanic. No, I'm sorry. You've taken a story that basically, how can I put this? When the character says she's white as snow, which is the main basis of being called Snow White, and the jealousy of the queen that wanted to get rid of Snow White because that she was beautiful and her complexion was very beautiful and plain and simple to the nature, you're going to change it. And I understand Snow White is in public domain, which is of many stories. But most people don't realize is that a lot of these stories are really dark. If you've never seen the end of the original Snow White or Pinocchio or Cinderella, there were a lot of horrible things at the end. A lot of horrible things at the end. Now, the original version of Snow White, this is from the Brothers Grimm. At the end of it, the Wicked Queen is fatally punished for trying to kill Snow White, and the way that it's done is that she's made to dance wearing a pair of red hot iron shoes until she falls over dead. A little scary there, aren't they? A little scary on that. Now, I'll give you another one. Sleeping Beauty. The original ending of that is that she was found already sleeping in an abandoned castle, but not by a prince, but by a king who proceeds to basically doesn't wake her, but he has his way with her unconsciously. And then he brought her back to his wife, Maleficent. That's another one. Let's see, Rapunzel, who's trapped by a witch, lets her hair down for a prince who's enchanted by her voice and asks her to marry him. When the prince shows up to see her, the witch dangles Rapunzel, cuts off her hair to lure him, and tells him that Rapunzel is dead. Dark endings. That's a lot of dark endings to that. But that's not to the nature, that they're going to try to do with this one. But see, here's where we get into the insanity of it. Besides that they're going to race swap Snow White. Peter Dinklage, you know him from Game of Thrones, and I thought very good actor, very good role to the situation. He's had many good roles in his career. Most people talk about him being an elf and Game of Thrones. There is a 2003 movie which he was brilliant in called The Station Agent. I mean, if you haven't seen Station Agent, catch that movie. It is a really, really good movie. Patricia Clarkson's in it, Bobby Cannavale, Michelle Williams, Raven Goodwin, Paul Benjamin, and of course Peter Dinklage. I mean, it is a really good movie if you haven't catch it. This was a movie that was made money, $500,000, $8.7 million in the box office, so it was a success. Well, Peter came out in, I guess it was a podcast and all that, and it said that basically there shouldn't be any dwarfs in Snow White, and he proposed that over to Disney, and Disney is now not going to be using. They bent the knee to Peter Dinklage that they're not going to use dwarfs because he says it's offensive that they're in a cave and all that. And it's like, really? Have you not read Snow White? Have you really not read Snow White? I mean, these are guys who basically live wealth. I mean, comfortably. I mean, I would have to say, in a way, it's wealthy because they're cutting gems in caves, bringing them back home. They have their own home. They have their own separate identities because they're all different. Happy, sleepy, dark, all that. And they have, they come across Snow White and they help her. But now they want to change that. They want to change the situation, because Peter Dinklage said, well, I don't agree with it. And you would think that would be the end of that whole situation. And of course, the fandoms will be up in arms and saying on there. And you would figure that the dwarf community would be in total agreements. Guess what? They're not. They are not. Here's Dylan Post. Postal, if I'm not saying, but AKA WWE's Hornswoggle. And here's a couple of things he had to say about the situation.
It's not Snow White and the 7 normal-sized humans like every other movie. This is a fairy tale, a remake of a fairy tale, pardon me. And this is also giving 7 dwarves, people, real-life people, actors, a chance to star in a movie in a role that is fit for them, literally fit for them. I can't, when The Greatest Showman came out, I couldn't be the main lead. I couldn't be P.T. Barnum. I could have been one of the side acts because that role was made for me. And the issue at hand is, by saying this, he's doing something worse for the dwarf and the little people community. He's trying to take roles away. It really blows my mind. The whole woke thing, you're going too far, in my opinion. It's too far. It's too much. You're trying to change something that doesn't need to be changed. There's nothing wrong with how dwarves were portrayed.
Well, he's right. You've just lost 7 jobs from 7 people, from 7 actors that could have done this role. And it's hard to find roles for people who are dwarfs. I mean, even the adult industry, there are dwarfs in the adult industry. Mostly what you see, as far as if it's not a Peter Dinklage, a lot of the stuff you see are reality shows with dwarfs in. Another big dwarf was Mini-Me, God rest his soul, in the Austin Powers series. But we could have had a lot more toward that. And as Dylan said, he knows people. He can get a lot of people that are looking for work that can do it. And it's the truth. Peter's sitting there like, hey, yeah, I'm the king of all that. Basically, do what I say. We don't want to be in there. And it's like, the other people in his community going like, don't speak for us. If you don't like it, that's plain and simple. That's you. That's plain and simple. That is you. These are stories that are constantly being changed. They ripped it. I mean, we have a female Zorro coming out. There's now going to be a female Robin Hood. Come on, really? And the worst part is with the female Robin Hood? That it's going to be in the projects. I kid you not. If this story that was coming out, that's being proposed right now in Hollywood, that they're going to be doing a Robin Hood female version, that she's in the projects, oh my God, this is just the biggest stupidity that's going to come out of Hollywood. This is why Hollywood is wrecked. This is the reason why Hollywood wrecked. These are the reasons why there are problems at Disney. because they keep spewing out these movies left and right. Did we not learn from the Amazon Cinderella? Did we not learn that? Or the other one that they were doing with the basketball sneaker one and on that, and how much criticism that looked horrible. Sneaker Feller or whatever the freak that one was. I mean, really. I mean, there are some movies out there that have had dwarfs in them. Some of them good, some of them bad. And it gave them a chance to be on the screen. You know, this is the point where Hollywood screams, well, there's not enough of this minority on the screens. We don't have this enough. But when it comes down to the brass tacks, it comes down to their own politics of what they choose to put on the screen, what they want to be put on the screen. They keep changing characters because they said, well, there's not enough of, you know, give an example from the comic book industry, there's not enough black superheroes. But like I said in the last week, there are plenty of them. They're on the shelf collecting dust. A lot of black superheroes, there are a lot of Hispanic superheroes, Asian superheroes, but they don't use them all. They just sit there, try to take over one or two, change the look on them, make them more politically correct to their standards. And like the Naomi TV series, which episode 4 dropped another 10% in ratings, which will end up being in the basement. Let me tell you, if Naomi gets a season 2, really, that is truly the final nail in the coffin for CW. I don't know if Nexstar is going to finally want to buy them. Truly. Because basically when you have crap like this, and this comes from people in Hollywood, people like Peter Dinklage and many others who try to say that, oh, these are racist and stuff like that. These are stories that were written long before we were ever born. And they are a lot darker in the original text. Taking from the original Snow White story, the original Disney Snow White, which they did many years ago, which was a beautiful, beautiful animated movie. They turned a dark story into a lively story that children of all ages could watch, that a family could watch. And it's the same thing with Pinocchio, same thing with Little Mermaid. Do you think that those stories on that, I think Little Mermaid committed suicide in the original story. Pinocchio got hung by a tree. Oh God, I can go down the list of every one of these characters. Go read a Grimm's book. It is super dark. And now what they're turning into it is in the opposite direction of they're going from one direction of darkness into another direction of darkness by just changing the entire story. I mean, we saw from the Amazon version that they added a lot of things that didn't belong in that era. They were talking about climate change. They were talking about, talk about a propaganda movie. The singing was awful. Was off tune, off keyed, and most of the songs were jukebox music. Most of the songs weren't even original songs. See, that's the problem, and I said this in another video, is the composers that we have that are coming to say they're not creating any new music. They're not creating, when you look back at movies like Lion King and Tarzan out of Disney and Little Mermaid and Mulan and what made them popular? A lot of it was the soundtrack. Same thing with Frozen. Frozen, I think, was the last one. Is the true last one that they did that basically was a hit with everybody. After that, they went jukebox. That's all they were doing. There have been many, unusual films in the day with dwarfs in them. There was a dwarf cowboy movie one time. There were dwarfs in the movie Freaks. But there's one movie that stands out in a bit, and I bring this up. The reason I bring this up is because the amount of dwarfs that were used in this movie. Chevy Chase and Carrie Fisher starred in a comedic adaptation of a story about the insanity of what went into creating the Wizard of Oz. Now, whether it's true, whether it's false, this was a insane movie. It wasn't the greatest. I enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. It, like I said, stars Chevy Chase, Carrie Fisher, Billy Barty, which you know Billy Barty, Mako, Robert Donner, Evan Arden, and a major cast of who's who of dwarfs. And it was a fun movie to watch. I mean, just to see the insanity of what Hollywood was going through. And then behind it was basically spies, the Nazis, the Japanese. I mean, this was like around World War II, and we're talking about 150 dwarfs that were used in that. Because you have to remember, it probably was kind of insane when they did when they got so many dwarfs together for the original making of that. But you could have movies of this situation where stuff like this, and you've seen a little bit of the scenes that we're showing on the screen, that you can make a good movie. And same thing with the movie that The Station Agent that Peter Dinklage did. There are good roles out there for these people. They're actors just like everybody else, and they should be respected. And the roles that they're deemed to have, like I said, this is, to the point where they race swap. Now they're removing dwarfs from stories that dwarfs are needed in because one feels that we shouldn't have this. So comment in down, tell me how you feeling about this. Tell me, how stupid Peter is. This is how you lose your fans this way. It's a story. It's a story, and it should be told. Whether it's told in the original Snow White premise or in the Brothers Grimm version. I would have, liked to see the darker versions of these stories told, so at least people can understand them and done in the perspective from the original texts themselves. And it can be done. It can be done.